Hello everyone. Before my class demonstration, allow me to introduce myself briefly. My name is Mr. Son Rubaya. I am originally from the Philippines, but currently I am here in Bekasi, Indonesia, teaching IB MYP and DP Math. Also, I had the chance to teach IGCSE Math at GEMS Cambridge International School in Dubai, UAE. And I think we can now begin with the lesson demonstration. All right. Before we start, I would like to know how you are feeling today. So, out from the emojis you can see at the right, I'd like you to choose one that best describes your current disposition or your current feeling at the moment. And then later on, I'll be calling in some volunteers to share to us their answers and the reason why. So, 2 minutes to do a self assessment of how you are feeling today. Ready? Begin. All right. Anybody who would like to share? Yes, please. Oh, that's something good to know. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else? Oh, I see. Thank you for being honest. You know what? When you share your feelings to your closest friends, for example, sometimes it makes you feel comfortable. That is why I gave this activity today so that before we begin our class, you will feel comfortable as well. You will feel um, a little better before we start with the lesson. I think right now the class is all set to begin with the lesson. Ready? Let's proceed. You can see a picture here at the right. Can anybody tell me what the picture shows? Yes, please. Very good. This one is a tree house. Anybody from this class who has been to a treehouse before? Or maybe perhaps who experienced climbing up a treehouse? Anyone? Yes. Yeah, can you share a little bit of your experience? Very good. Thank you so much. So basically, for today's activity, we will be looking into or we'll be using the idea of a treehouse. But before we continue, I'd like you to look for a partner or a pair, preferably somebody sitting beside you, because later on you're going to share with your pair your thoughts about this particular situation. Okay? So, can I ask somebody to kindly read this situation out loud? Yes, please. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, by the way, for reading. So, in the next 2 to 3 minutes, this is what I'd like you to do. First, I'd like you to think individually first. Try to look for creative ways. It doesn't have to be mathematical. You can think out of the box. Ways on how you can estimate the length of the ladder given information found above. After which, I'd like you to share it with your partner, and then I will be calling in some volunteers to share to the bigger class their thoughts, whatever they have discussed with their partners. All right? So this will be for 2 to 3 minutes. Any questions? None? Ready? Begin. All right. Anybody who would like to share anything that you have discussed with your partners? Oh, yes, please. Very good. That's something creative. I did not expect that at all. That's actually something thinking that's what we call as thinking out of the box. Very good. Anybody else? That's another creative way. Thank you so much. And you know what? I'm so happy to know your answers, to hear your answers, because it tells me that you really are analyzing things and trying to look for creative ways. And that's something very impressive. Thank you so much. However, take note that what you are doing is simply estimating. So it's just an approximation, it's just an estimation. How about if we wanted to be more accurate? What do you think should we do in order to come up with a more accurate measurement? Measure it up, good. But what if we don't have any measuring tools at all? But we do know some information. Very good. Actually, we can apply some mathematical concepts in order to find somehow an accurate measurement or an accurate length of the ladder. And that is what we're going to discuss for today. All right? So if you try to look at it in this particular situation, we are given that the tree house is how high above the ground based on the situation? Yes, please. Very good. It's 12 feet above the ground. And the ladder, which is supposed to be placed for the children, for the kids to climb up the tree house, must be located how far from the tree? Look at the situation. Read it again. How far? Yes. Very good. It should be 5 feet away from the tree. And knowing this information, you are somehow asked to estimate the length of the ladder to be used. Again, we wanted to be more accurate. In other words, we wanted to somehow give an accurate measure, not just an estimate. So in this case, before we proceed, can you see a familiar geometric shape formed? You do? All right. And what shape is this? Yes. Very good. This one is a triangle. Very good. Now, looking into the situation, if you try to read the second to the last statement, it says that the tree is perpendicular with the ground. When you talk about perpendicular, what does it mean? Very good. In other words, what angle does the tree make with the ground for it to be perpendicular? Yes? Very good. It forms a right angle with the ground. If this is the case, then what kind of triangle is formed? Very good. Now we have a right triangle. So this time, we are looking at a right triangle. Question is, does anybody in this class know how to relate all sides of a right triangle? Anyone? You have an idea, but then you're not sure of it? Thank you so much. You don't have to worry about it because that is what we are supposed to discuss today. All right? But before we do so, let's try to see some learning outcomes. So for today, this is what we are supposed to achieve at the end of the lesson. Number one, for you to know how to establish a relationship among all three sides of a right triangle, to know how to solve for the longest side, which later on you will find out which among the three sides is the longest, and of course, apply Pythagorean theorem to solve simple real-life word problems. Before we proceed, I'd like you to do a self-assessment against these learning outcomes. If you don't know anything about these learning outcomes, I'd like you to rate yourselves red, meaning you don't know anything about them. So just put a check mark under the column red. All right? However, if you know anything about any of these learning outcomes, but then you're not sure of it, then you can rate yourselves yellow. But if you are aware, or if you know these learning outcomes, if you know how to do this perfectly, then you can rate yourselves green. Now, the use of this is we are going to check for your progress later on and compare it with your current level at present. So we will try to see if there will be progress at the end of our discussion. So we will compare it with your self-assessment right now. All right? So I'll give you about 2 minutes to 3 minutes to do a self-assessment. Just put a check mark under the appropriate column, red, yellow, or green. Remember that we're doing this in every lesson, so you now are familiar with the meaning of red, yellow, and green. Ready? 2 minutes, begin. All right. So again, for this particular lesson, we are going to discuss on Pythagorean theorem. And later on, you'll come to realize the use of this Pythagorean theorem in order to address this particular problem. But before we proceed, I'd like you to go to your learning cell groups. I have already assigned you a learning cell group at the beginning of the class, at the beginning of the school year. So you'll be working with your learning cell groups. Okay, can you go now to your learning cells? Very good. And I'd like you to send in one representative to come here in front to get the worksheets and the materials that you will be needing. So for today's activity, you'll be doing 3 learning episodes. First learning episode, you'll be using the 2 ready-made rectangles. So what I'd like you to do is to follow on with the instructions, and then you're going to answer the questions found here. All right? After which, you are going to proceed to the second learning episode, by which you're going to use your tablets, iPads, and laptops, but definitely no cell phones. Now, the second learning episode will somehow clarify the things that you have had in the first learning episode. So here you'll be exploring the topic using the websites I have given here, and later on you'll be answering process questions. And after which you're going to proceed to the third learning episode. Here you're going to use the 2-meter string. All right? Now, along the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask questions from me. However, I'll be roaming around to check each group's progress so that I can assist you should you need any. Okay? Any further questions or clarifications? No more questions? All right, you may now proceed.